Welcome to episode 55 of Pineapples and Thorns. I'm Kat, and with me is Fatal.
Hey,
How's it going?
all right. 4 stars for the good guys.
4, not 6?
Distributed evenly among my 2 hits in a war, yes.
Excellent. Uh, you having a good weekend?
So far so good. I've been
Yeah.
busy, I've been productive. I've been yeah, it's been really good so far. And today being we're recording on May 6th, it's been a coronation Saturday. There is a new king, whatever. Um, sorry to all her loyal, or excuse me, his loyal subjects, such as yourself, you Canadians.
Just
And
subjects by default.
yeah, yeah, and let the big days continue. Right? Yesterday
Exactly.
was Cinco de Mayo, and the day before was Star Trek Day. So yeah, tomorrow's my brother's birthday. So
Oh,
uh,
happy birthday to him.
there you go.
All right, I'm going to just do some updates on CFF news and stuff. Red Thorns in SCCWL as everybody else. And Red Thorn and TGF are both in Champs 3, so we split into 2 groups. Red Thorn's sitting kind of in the middle of the pack right now and doing okay. It's been a little bit strange week. There was one clan that we absolutely smashed. I think they had some Town Hall 12s in their lineup. Looks like they're trying to drop out of Champs, but we'll take the points. And TGF is doing okay. They're battling it out to stay in Champs 3 as well. And the rated is smashing it in Masters 3, running a lot heavier, so they're having a lot of fun. And Shiny Gemeralds is our home for wayward children and running a mix of alts and just having some fun with it. So that's it for SCCWL.
Oh, so,
And
so that's what's going on when I'm out of the rated, huh? Oh, that's
that's right.
super. Hopefully all those 15s are around next month when, as they promote. Because otherwise it's going to be, back to the 14s and 13s trying to defend what the 15s have set out for them.
Yeah, let's hope that we don't promote them just in case.
Smash away, except not all the way to number 1.
And yeah, don't smash too hard. And for CFF, right now we're in the middle of the Clone Wars event. Started on May 4th and brought to us by Sky Barker Productions. That's Sky and Barky.
I love it.
And the idea is that you use your first attack on your own town hall level, and then whoever you attack has to use the comp that you hit them with to attack somebody else, and vice versa. So whatever you were attacked with, you have to use that comp. So it's been pretty funny watching some of this stuff. Steve is going to be streaming the end of it, so thank you to him for doing that. And at this point, it's anyone's war to win. It's pretty close. And let's see, coming up on June 9th, the CFF will be hosting the 69 event, so stay tuned for details on that one. And immediately following SCCWL, Red Thorn is going to do a civil war. So that means that we're just going to kind of stay in our clans, TGF and Red Thorn, and just do a little friendly war with each other. Not too friendly. And then right after that, we'll jump into our spin for win 599. And if we win that one, we'll be doing our 600 war spin.
Yeah, that's it's kind of fun how the Rated and Red Thorn RTTR they're both on the precipice of
Exactly. Yeah.
milestone wins.
Yeah. TR is close to 400. I think they're 1 win behind. So
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't do like a 30 for 30 somehow and find a way to match between the two for the round number victory. But
yeah, that would take
I
too many brain cells.
yeah, and people committed to moving around
Mm-hmm.
because the chances of us actually matching for a 30 for 30 are pretty slight, right? Yeah, friendly war wouldn't count on that total, so poo. All right. So that'll be cool when those nice even number victories happen. But moving on um, into a little bit of the topics for today's. We don't have a guest. We usually have them introduced very early on. Um, Yeah, today there's going to be a lot of clan management and even some mental health discussions. So um, I may not be as jokey at some times as I usually am because, I take mental health stuff very seriously personally. Um, but anyway, you know, starting there, we will get to the mental health stuff in a short bit, but um, we've talked about a lot of clan management things in the past,
Hmm.
and various pods have talked about leadership styles over the past couple of weeks. We know the Clash Wolves as well as our good buddy C Note over at Clash Tours. Um, and so let's just kick it off, Kat. And you've been involved in leadership of several clans, so several big clans and several long-standing clans.
Hmm.
So what would you say? How has clan management changed? Um, you may not have been leading 10 years ago, but in your time as a leader, what have you seen? Like what has come and gone, and where do you see it going?
Well, just sort of observing from when I first started playing. When I first joined a clan, the general style was, anybody would join the clan, and uh, the management style was, if you missed a hit or the leader didn't like you, it was just like a boot, and not about a boot.
Yep, all right, you beat me to my own joke.
Sorry. But it was just a much more abrasive kind of clan management style from my observation. And as I've progressed in various types of leadership, I've seen it sort of change in terms of, yes, clans will still, kick people for missing attacks, or uh, it, there is still that factor that if leadership really doesn't like you, they'll find a way to get rid of you. But I think over the years, it's just kind of mellowed out a bit. Like people are, real life is more important
Hmm.
for most clans.
Yeah, and that's interesting you bring that up because you mentioned a couple different things where people miss attacks, or there are Magnuses in your people in your clan you may don't get along with. And that's the fun thing about Red Thorn, I think, in a lot of the clans, at least in our orbits,
Hmm.
is that we're always jumping to, is this person all right? Is it, we understand by now, especially like the Red Thorn is the one I'm most familiar with, but
Hmm.
you know it's true of the rated as well. But like I hope everything's okay with that person. It's not like them to miss two attacks. So
Exactly.
yeah, and there are people that'll grate on you in clan chat or something where you think they are not communicating to you the way you like being communicated with, especially like, and this really happens after a war attack at most,
Hmm.
right? That's when people are twitchiest, or the nerves are their rawest if they didn't have a good attack and they know it, and someone critiques it in a way that person doesn't like. That's
Right.
when a lot of that blows up. And
Yeah.
it's interesting you said. So those are two big kicking instances, and that just doesn't happen in the rated. Now, if someone is really going after someone, yeah, of course. So rated and red thorn, yeah, we will absolutely do that. But there's a vetting process to even get in there, right? And
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I think, like speaking from the experience of like Red Thorn and the Rated, we try and vet people, when they apply in the CFF server. You go through an interview process and you try and get a feel for the person. Do you think that, you know, they're going to be a good fit for the clan? And you don't really know until they're sort of interacting in game and in the clan chat. Not everybody talks in Discord, so a lot of people, when they have time for Clash, they don't want to be in Discord. They want to just be in the game and interacting there. And if you spot issues, then that's when leadership kind of maybe steps in and has a chat with the person rather than just like abruptly kicking them. So I think leadership styles, especially in the CFF, hopefully it reflects the way clans in general are out there. But I know the CFF is generally like, because we treat everybody as adults, even if they are on the younger side,
Mhm.
with certain expectations, and we try to make that clear to everybody. So,
Yeah, those expectations are clear, right?
mhm,
And, you know, the it's mind-blowing what the CFF Discord server does. All the automation and whatnot, building that is just amazing.
mhm,
So we will get a recruitment ticket, and it's somewhat rare these days for us to get that. I don't know if it's my interpretation or gut of how things are going, but we don't get a lot of recruitment tickets anymore. We know most of the people coming in and out, and Red
mhm,
Thorn's usually pretty full. But we do get that job interview type of setting, right, where we're in Discord and we're chatting, and oh yeah, you're absolutely right, Kat. You don't know until you're interacting with them in game. And back to that scenario, like how are they like when someone does a war attack, and they are they supportive of I'm talking about our, I guess, our clan's personality, our culture, if you will,
mhm.
is that are they supportive, right?
Yeah.
It always comes back to don't be a jerk, right? And especially when you're new, people don't understand your sense of humor, and context is completely lost in over text or direct messaging, whatever you want to call the in-game chat and all that. So it always comes back to how comfortable are they? Do they understand? You got to get to know people's senses of humor as well, because I don't think I've ever been on voice, or haven't been on voice with certain clanmates in a year or even 2 years, and I still know their sense of humor. So you
Mhm.
still know like when you can kind of push the envelope with them, and or just troll them a little bit, or just for fun, right? Just
Right.
tease them. It's kind of like whipping each other's behinds with towels in the locker room. But enough about locker room behavior. Um, but really, do they fit in? And that's kind of that's the nice thing about a lot of the clans I've been in the last 2+ years, 3 years probably since I returned. It is a bunch of adults, and there's adult humor, and we even get to have fun with the Supercell censors, right? Speaking of adult
Oh,
humor,
yes.
like F bombs get through, but you can't congratulate certain clanmates because they think their names are swear words, and they're as far as swear words as they can be. So
Yeah, the nicest person in the clan gets edited out.
indeed. So in some tongue, or in some vernacular, that word means something absolutely nasty. So that's a good way for us to get started on digging into Urban Dictionary, and seeing
Okay.
what that word really means. But yeah. So speaking of leadership, in cultures and fitting in,
Mhm.
um, ratios were always like a big measure of, hey, what kind of clanmate is this person? And there's a couple of big things with donation ratios that you kind of keep an eye on, right? Well, so
Mhm.
if someone's in Legends, they're going to be, if their ratio is skewed more to the taking than giving, right? They get more than they give. If it's not way out of line, it's understandable. It's really a measure of like activity.
Yeah.
So the person's highly active in the game. They got 8 legend hits. So you've got, I don't know, is it 78? Or even more? Is it 83? What, you get 50 donated troops, 3 spells plus a siege. So that's 83 in my terrible math. Just to do one legends hit if you use up your entire um, clan castle. So
Mhm.
at 8 times a day, and that's what, 664. I don't know. I may be off, but
You're gonna hurt my
um,
brain.
yeah, I think it's like 664 troops a day just to do legends hits, and every other day you need another 166 just to do your war hits. So,
Yeah.
where it used to be like, oh wow, gosh, 10,000 was a decent number, right? Each season of giving and receiving, and it can be viewed as it's a lot of gems or a lot of time cooking. So it's hard to say that, yeah, donation ratio is an easy one to pick on. In my
Yeah.
opinion, I'm sorry, Kat, real quick.
Oh,
In
go
my
ahead.
opinion, though, if you see someone who's like a 10 to 1, so they've given about 100 troops for every 1,000 they receive, I do think that's problematic. because in a highly active clan, there's a lot more opportunities to give than that. And we know you're on, and we know you're requesting troops when there are open requests, and you're not filling them.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to jump into chat and say no, I'm not going to fill you, but I might let that request hang out there if I see your ratios like really crappy. And I know that's not really co-leaderly of me to say, but I honestly I guess long story short, which I'm so good at long stories, I do see that, and it does impact how I behave in the game. How about
Yeah.
you?
I like to say that we don't have a donation ratio in Redthorn. However, there is an expectation that you will fill requests. Like nobody's expected to gem donations. I mean, people do, but there is absolutely no expectation to go and start gemming donation requests. And now with the self donation thing, if you're sitting for more than 15 minutes waiting for troops, just fill your own
Yep.
request. And
Yep.
especially if you're asking for super troops, that's something that people should be cognizant of. If
y-
if it, as speaking like from leadership's point of view, if it's becoming an issue where requests are sitting open for an extended period of time, then that's when you sort of like address it. If it's like one person that's the issue, then you might pull them aside and just in a DM and just say, hey, you need to start working on this. Make sure you fill other requests. In general, a brief announcement or clan mail does the trick, and people are like, oh yeah, yeah. But it's not usually a huge issue here.
mhm.
Other clans, I'm not sure how they would handle it other than doing a clan mail or booting people. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and thankfully, like we don't really have much of a problem with this in any of the clans where,
Hmm.
well, I can't say I'm not in, for instance, I'm not in VM with you, or I'm not in any of the other clans you're in with you, but I can tell you like the crossover with the rated and Redthorn,
Yeah.
generally not a problem. In fact, we have a couple of people quite the opposite who are absolute superstars who love running up the score on donating, and
Yes.
I don't view that as selfish at all. Like I think it does cause other people not to hit a goal ratio if they have one. If they're like,
Hmm.
oh shoot, like I'm, a couple thousand to the in the red, but that's not problematic. That person's still active, right? And just because someone's quicker on the draw, it's not the end of the world to me at all. Like that doesn't rub me the wrong way because at the end of the day, that the other person's just being that generous. Um, and I do think what I do wish was more evident was, and I am not the best at this, but I wish we knew who was filling war castles as well,
Right.
because that is a pain in the butt.
It's a huge undertaking. Yeah. It would be nice if there was some kind of a little thing that said, war CC filled by so and so, or
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
and filling the CC for war should count towards your totals. Because
Hmm.
if you're filling 40 or 30 CCs every war, especially in SCCWL, if you're boosting, and some people gem them,
Hmm.
you know, it's you're spending a lot of resources to get those done, and time because it takes time.
Well, that's and no joke here, but that's where like clan games comes in handy when you're
Hmm.
maxed out. Is it basically everything turns into a gem. So you can get 250 to 300 gems that way, and that goes a long way if you got the gold pass into filling. Like if you just fill some of the big hitters,
Hmm.
like say ice golem size and up on a war, that doesn't take a lot of gems.
No,
It's just oh well, I just spent 9 gems donating 9 archers. Why? Right?
exactly,
It takes what, 81 seconds or so to, or not even that, to make those archers. So it's
exactly.
a, and so yeah, like and the final factor I think is there might be one account in there whose donation ratio is skewed way to the negative. Well, um, not to pick on our British friend Lolly, but that's because her mini's in there with
Hmm.
a crazy donation ratio the other way. A lot of
Yeah.
times she might be doing Legends hits while we're all sleeping. So, there's so many reasons that a donation ratio can look way out of whack. That, generally speaking, it's not so much the ratio, it's more like it's always going to come down to, is that person giving when there are, requests out there and they're
Hmm.
sitting there requesting and ignoring them. I'm much more cognizant of that.
Yeah, it's all about being a good clanmate, right?
Mhm. And so, yeah, like Lolly, your mini is a wonderful clanmate, and your main, ooh, we're gonna have a chat.
Step into the office.
Right, right. Kat, so not only do you lead, you are HR lady. Um, so yeah, if you're stepping into a one-on-one meeting and there's nothing but a box of Kleenex, it's bad news, right? Okay, so clan wars are probably what, 8 years old or so, right? And we've
Yeah.
talked about filling and think of how far they've come. I mean, even there's even a CWL in the game now, but 10 years ago, it used to be used to be a lot different, right? So, were you leading a clan or in clan leadership, Kat, when wars were released?
I just started playing right at the time that war started, and it scared the heck out of me.
Hmm.
The idea of being in war, it's like so much pressure. Like, will I be selected for war? If I'm
People
selected,
people can watch.
well, it's just like, the idea of like, well, because the leader would choose who got to do the wars, right?
Mhm.
And so everybody would be like, can I be in war? Can I be in war? And I'm like, don't pick me. Don't pick me.
Oh yeah,
But
that's true. And there were no live replays at the very
I don't
outset,
think
right? You
so.
couldn't watch live. You just knew the attack was happening and you could go in and watch the replay
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah,
Even that
exactly.
even that felt like pressure. Um,
When there
10
was no
years
way to
ago.
call a base either, right?
Oh God, no. No, there was no way to call a base and there was no way to even set your war base. It was a, what is your farm base the instant that prep day ended? That's your war base. So we learned real quickly, like, oh well, our jokey leave your town hall on the outside base to get a shield. That doesn't work real well in war.
Not
And I think
such
it
a
was
great
like a
idea.
I was like a TH7 or 8 or whatever. I think maybe a 7 when it all came out. Um, but yeah, so there was no management, right? It
Hmm.
was it was hit away, use your in-game chat, be like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna hit base 12. Please don't hit that." And then you watch some guy fly in with Barch and get the 2 stars, and you're like, "Oh, thanks."
But
But go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say another thing that I noticed was that back in the days when I was in sort of more of a, well, no, it wasn't Red Thorn or Hollow Graves, or it was like pre all that when I was in one of these global clans. The leader would tell you which base you were to hit, right? It's like,
Hmm.
you'll be assigned base 3 because I think that like the leader was so intensely involved, right?
Hmm.
That when I think of like how much time must have gone into him sort of sitting down and going through the war map and assigning bases to people, it made my brain hurt.
Right, right. And sometimes it was just, well, hit your mirror or hit
Hmm.
3 below or something. It always depended on the war and the matchup.
Yeah, but I mean, really, that was the only way to really control how people were attacking,
Hmm.
because otherwise you're going to have people, the town hall 7 was going to be hitting up on the town hall 10, and you know looking like a loot hit type of thing, and there was really no organization because there was, unless you were using some external app or
Right.
had a way of communicating, there was no way to call bases in game. There was no, I think, a lot of clans started using that, what was it, Clash Caller?
There was Clash Caller, and then if you had Discord, there was War Match.
Right, yeah, War
Um,
Match was amazing at the
yeah, War
time.
Match was really good. And but that's interesting though. It required the clan members to be active in Discord,
Hmm.
and I actually think like the introduction of in-game calling um, reduced a lot of people's usage of Discord. Period.
Right,
Right.
and it was a big thing for switching to the in-game calling on the map because we were so used to using War Match, and it was it was a way to sort of monitor who had a base called, because if someone had that base called, it had a timer on it, and then it would release the base afterwards. So there was a lot of really good things about it. I really wish in game on the map that there was a way to set a timer
Hmm.
in game.
Hmm. Yep, and I this is probably like the 19th episode I've mentioned this on, but let us see call details when we're scouting a base, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, show me if this base is currently called. Show me when, any notes on it. That has to be I mean, if you can see the replay from both places, why can't you see that bit of metadata
Mm-hmm.
about that base as well? And then yeah, and now, like I said, like without we don't need war match. It's your clan's culture, right? No, when you get a new person coming into the clan and say, "Hey, how do we call bases here?" Say, "No, we use." I think we didn't jump immediately. At least Redthorn, we didn't jump immediately to in-game calling.
Right.
I can't remember the reason. I remember when we discussed, yeah, we need to go to it when we changed to it. But I remember we stuck, I believe, with War Match. But you know, that's such a big thing now. And like I said, now that we're decided to just use in-game calling, and the culture is you will get 2 hours. Just put the timestamp of the war, where you're at in war when you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Make sure that you've got that in there. Otherwise, we've had a lot of instances where people will just call a base, not put the timestamp in there, and walk away and forget they called it, or real life happens, or what have you.
Yeah.
Um, and so, we try and deal with that on a case by case basis.
Yeah. Usually people are pretty good about it. Like you say, in Red Thorn, they're pretty well trained. That from years of using War Match, that they have 2 hours to get their hit in.
Hmm.
And like you say, every once in a while, someone will forget, and then it's just usually, oh, guess who's pinging me? Oh, it's Cat.
Time to pull the plug on the computer and throw the phone in the river, right?
Exactly.
So, Kat, let me ask you. You've been a little more involved in the recruiting side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how has like recruiting and player retention changed over the last few years?
Recruiting, it's really slowed down in terms of people looking for clans. From what I've seen in the CFF, like we used to post whether it was on Reddit or wherever, and you'd get a huge influx, especially with clans like Kent Greenhouse, where it's a really diverse town hall mix, all the way from 7 up to 15. You get a ton of people coming in from a KGH post on, say, for example, Reddit, and and then with the CFF, you'd conduct the interviews and have them come in. Retention, I think that varies from clan to clan, and it depends on people getting frustrated, perhaps with the length of time it takes to upgrade to the higher town halls. People lose interest, or real life happens, school, so they step away from the game, and then they come back. Like we've been really lucky in Redthorn that we've had very little issues retaining people, but all our players are, well, near max 15s if they're not max already.
Hmm.
Um, but we've also had some people coming back to the game,
Hmm.
which is really nice to see that,
Yeah, it
people have
is.
been away for 6 months to a year, 2 years, and then all of a sudden they're back and they're looking for a place to play, you know.
It really is. And back to, you're thinking on retention and people's, reasons they might step away. I didn't race to max my 15. Um, Whatever max is these days, right? But now I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, holy cow, it's 3.5 months already. I've been maxed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and not an update on that. So I do think that's impact. I know there's one example specifically. I think you're thinking of the same person. Um, who's like, yeah, there's nothing to do, and wars are, the hit rates are way down. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but maybe I am just gonna, enjoy my summer.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not doing leagues or the CFF events, that sort of stuff, then there's no point in going into the game to farm because you can't even pop the bubbles on your collectors. And
Yeah.
okay, so you're doing clan games and you're getting gems, but why buy the gold pass just for the one gem donation? It's getting to a point where I'm hoping that they give us something to work on with the next update. I got really excited when I saw that fan art with the new levels for the sweeper and
No,
the
I did
scatter
not.
shot and
I
everything.
that didn't excite me. That depressed me. Like if you want to do fan art, show me like a level 17 balloon, right? Give me 4 new levels of troops to.
Don't get our hopes up. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? I thought, oh, good, a new sweeper level. But yeah, it was very nice fan art. But yeah, I was kind of sad when I found out it wasn't a real leaf.
Yeah, so you think I guess with all this in mind, like with how the game has changed and the typical ways of we know of our clans and even our friend clans, people who are outside of the CFF sphere, well, generally have coalesced around the use of Discord and the use of um, certain tools for communication, etc. Um, so everyone's doing a lot of the same sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
So is it easier or harder um, to lead a clan these days?
From my point of view, I think just because everything, and I'm speaking from my perspective, like with Redthorn, like it's a kind of a well-oiled machine after all these years. Like everybody knows what to do. So from my point of view, leading Redthorn is not terribly labor intensive.
Hmm.
It gives me time to help out in the CFF with events and things like that. And I also am a co-leader over at Phoenix Reloaded, so it's a little bit more work over there because they run mixed breakdown. So there's some chasing of people that occasionally needs to happen,
Hmm.
and recruiting efforts need to be done over there. So I help out a little bit more over there, but overall, I think with all the tools available nowadays, I think clan leadership is in a pretty good place. What do you think?
Yeah, I suppose it really depends on your clan's culture, right? Like, is
Mm-hmm.
it highly competitive? Because I think that's probably a lot more difficult to manage because you may have to, like, how you're actually going to work through doing CWL rosters and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
even that. But when you're more of a casual clan, and we are, we do have some competitive. We I know, like for instance, Vodka Soda is a competitive player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this isn't to say none of us aren't competitive people, but he's playing competitively, right? That
Right.
and whereas we're more casual. Um, so and yeah, I think that the more competitive the clan, the more opportunities there are for difficulties for leadership. But then again, it's always a matter of perspective, right? Is it more difficult to manage clans of a mixed breakdown and things like that, where it gets tricky, and or are you more is it managing personalities, right? So thankfully on both fronts, like we're in a really good spot in Red Thorn. Um, and is that I mean, is that the sign of a healthy clan where leadership's tasks aren't all that difficult? Or are there other markers of a healthy or strong clan?
I mean, I think one of the indicators of a healthy clan is that there's activity in game. Putting Discord to the side completely and just like, you know, are people interacting in game, or is it, can you open the game and see chat from 3 weeks ago type of thing? Are people donating to each other? Are they enjoying the game? Because usually if people are enjoying the game, there's going to be banter in chat, right? Of
Hmm.
some sort, even if it's just people saying good morning or whatever. I think leadership sets the tone. So if you have
Hmm.
active leadership, not just the leader, but co-leaders as well, like everybody taking a little bit of that burden of leadership and checking in game and, making sure that, donations are filled and war hits are being done, that sort of thing. It's basically from everyone from members to the leader, they set the tone for the clan, and they ensure that the clan stays healthy.
Yep. I I I don't disagree with any of that. Um, and but with we said that there's usually some common tools around which the clans seem to use. Discord being a huge one. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, Reddit for recruiting. Um, with Discord though, you get to know the person, right? There can be
Yeah.
impromptu voice sessions. Voice was good for a long time ago when the war leagues were at least I know war leagues still happen. I know there are still all sorts of war leagues happening outside of CWL and the competitive scene. But I know most of us have stepped away from that and aren't really involved in that. Um, so that was a big usage of voice back in the day. Now it's more like rap sessions. That's what goes on in Red Thorn.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a handle on the person. You know it. You're not just talking about, boy, I hope there's a super healer in the next update. I mean, we're talking about what's going on in real life with us. And
Agreed.
do you feel any responsibility as a leader to looking after not just the player but the person?
I do to an extent. Like if, for example, if someone misses a war attack or something, and I know that person well enough that it's not normal for them to miss an attack. So, I'll maybe shoot them a quick DM and say, "Hey, hope everything's okay." You know, just checking up on you. And I've had people lay some pretty heavy stuff on me in DMs that they're going through different things, and it's just like, okay, real life's more important. You take care of that, and the game is here waiting for you when you come
Hey,
back.
spill the beans. Let's hear some of the good ones, right? Like I know Stormrider
Uh,
adopted a panda, and that really is taking up a lot of his time. But the pictures are great. I know Lolly has been heavily involved in planning the coronation of the king.
that's right.
So I hopefully she returns to the clan sometimes later this year.
Let's see.
Any come on, what really happened? Tell
The,
us.
the the strangest one I ever had was, this is dating back to my old clan. This one guy messaged and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be around. I'm going to jail for about 30 years." And I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Well, I
Guess
mean,
I
when
won't hold your spot."
you're doing a 30-year bid, I mean, maybe the guy is going to be like, "Whoa, 27 is out. All right, let's go. Got some catching up to do."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was probably the strangest one that ever came my way. But it's usually a lot more benign than that.
hmm Yeah,
But
usually more on the misdemeanor front, right? Like they stole some yard tools from
some
their
minor
neighbor.
assault, I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess so treat your pandas and your kings well, people. We don't want to lose you. Um, and I guess like really though from voice sessions and
Mhm.
DMs where you really find out how a person's really doing.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter what your status is in game, leader, member. Like you grow to like the person. You grow to have a relationship with the person, and
yeah,
you care about the person, right? Because it's weird. Like over all these years, even through in-game chat, you get to know their personalities, and you like them, and you want the best for them, and it does suck to hear when someone is struggling with something, because it doesn't matter who the person is. From the outside, they may look like they have the best life. They've got all these things you may want, but every single person has something they're dealing with at all points in time, and
yeah,
it's just good to remember that um, everyone is human. Everyone has a fuse, no matter how long or short, and everyone is dealing with things that are not evident um, to the naked eye.
very true. Like, you know, people will hide, you know, if they're struggling, whether it's like health wise or relationship or with their kids or their job or just in general. And it comes out eventually, like, whether, you just need a shoulder to, to cry on or talk to, a lot of times leadership ends up having that sort of responsibility I don't know if that's the right word.
Hmm.
Um, someone will say, just message you out of the blue and say, gosh, I've got this going on, and I'm really struggling, and then you're trying to just let them know that you're supportive, and that if they need to take time to deal with it, that it's okay.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Um,
it's also stressful, on the leadership as well, like, because you as a leader have your own things going on, like managing the clans and stuff like that. So, that can build up on you as well, having to deal with other people's issues, plus your own, plus running the clan, plus, your real life.
yeah, it's not like leaders are, and it's just like real life, right?
Hmm.
You've had a mom and dad, and growing up, you could always turn to them for answers and for support.
Hmm.
But it didn't mean your mom and dad weren't going through some things at any
Exactly.
particular time. And the same is true of like clan leadership. So, I mean, Kat, you're Red Thorn's mommy. Um,
Apparently.
that doesn't mean that everything is hunky dory in your world 100% of the time, and you don't need support as well.
This is true. And, I'm very lucky that I can, turn to my leadership team and say, hey, you know, I need to step back for a few days and deal with some stuff.
Hmm.
And then I know that the clan is in good hands, and I can deal with what I have to, and I can come back, and it'll still be there.
All right. Well, just to wrap a little bow on the topic of wellness and essentially mental health,
Hmm.
everyone, don't be afraid to tell people how you really feel. Tell someone you love them. Tell them how you really feel. It will help yourself. And take care of yourselves and carve out time for yourselves, and just don't be shy. If you're struggling, get help. It's,
Yeah.
there's a stigma on it from a long ago. Times have changed. Get help. The world is better with you in it. The Clash world is better with your account in it.
Even if it's a 15.
Yeah, your hit rate sucks compared to when you were 14. It doesn't mean we think less of you.
That's right.
Uh, builder based bonanza.
Oh,
How's
God.
that for a segue?
Let's go move on to a lighter topic. Yeah. Um, The May event calendar, mixed in amongst the usual events and challenges, is something that they're calling Builder Based Bonanza Part 1 on May 15th. Do you think it's a precursor to the update?
I don't see how it can be anything but. Um,
And we are so excited about it, I know.
well, it's something new. I don't think, taking the community's temperature. I don't think there's as much excitement as Supercell would like, but as always, once it comes out, who knows?
Yeah,
Don't write them off. I mean, they've built this universe that we all love, so uh, give it a chance.
yeah. I mean, they're going to give us, like, just judging by the sneak peeks that I've seen so far. I think there was just a few from Itsu and Judo, and I think Kenny Joe had one out. I'm not too sure if any of the others have, but they've got some reworked troops and levels. The double base attack system for Builder Hall 6 and higher. There's going to be new tasks to unlock the 6 builder. So apparently, if you've unlocked it already, then you'll not lose it. And super excited to see Builder Hall 10 beginning
Yeah.
levels of, yeah, well, it'll give something to do with all my
Yes.
builder hall loot that is maxed over there. And apparently the beginning levels of troops will be higher as you move up in builder hall levels. So basically they're saying don't upgrade troops if you are at lower levels until the update drops,
Mm.
because it was really complex how they were explaining it. But say, for example, you were builder hall 3 and you unlocked whatever the next troop is there, it'll start off at a higher level. It's not going to start off at level 1, it's going to start off at a higher level. So wait for the update to drop and see where it takes us, is what they were recommending.
All right, so I'll do that. I won't update any troops, upgrade any troops in the builder builder base, whatever, because, well, they've been maxed for about 4 years. But all right, well, let's see what they do.
Yeah.
And that's only what, a week and a half away, not even.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, well, about a week away. And of course, there's going to be a rework on how you get the sixth builder. So it used to be very tedious. You had to upgrade your battle machine all the way up to 30 and all these other things, and it took forever.
oh, I had the good old cannon cart. Yeah, you had to have that bad boy maxed, I think, right?
Yeah. So now you're going to have to complete 3 gear up upgrades, upgrade any troop to level 18, not just specific ones, upgrade any defense to level 9.
Oh, it's the Mega Tesla, wasn't it? You had to have the Mega
And
Tesla.
this is interesting, total upgrade level of all hero machines must be
Hmm.
at least 45.
So, what are you thinking? There's going to be a builder archer
Another
princess? I
here,
don't know.
another hero for the
Yeah.
builder base. Yeah, there's something coming. So, another thing I wanted to talk about, it's not related to builder base, is what is up with the new star bonus in game. It always used to be 4 times star bonus, and now they've quietly switched it to 2 times star bonus.
Well, I have two theories here. One, the entire universe is suffering from crippling inflation. So, um, whereas buildings cost more to upgrade, troops cost more to upgrade, heroes cost more to upgrade, your legends hits don't give you more loot, do they? They're still in that. They
Yep.
still did. They didn't change that. Come on now. But more importantly, though, um, what's the legends bonus? Isn't it just a hair over a million, like 1.1 million? I can't remember like the
Mm.
gold bonus, but let's say that you even double that. I guess the thinking is you can really way too quickly fill up your clan castle loot storage. Um, if you did a 4 times bonus, right? Like
Well, it was great.
faster than you could spend it in a
It
way.
was so great when I was upgrading stuff. Which town hall do you think was or is the most balanced? Clash Champs put out a survey a while back, and many people were saying it was Town Hall 9. What do you think?
Um, gosh, we were all at 9 for so long. 9 was easily the most fun for me. And I would say though that the hit rates were like for decent players was 50% and up easily, right? And so it's hard to say that that was actually balanced. Now, balanced is taken a different way in terms of the number of attack types you could use felt
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to say innumerable, but there were so many attack types you could do at TH9. Um, and they weren't like overly complicated, like the barrier of entry to being a hogger, Lalo, drags, witches, you know, was not real high. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in some respects, that's a different perspective on balance, and that seemed like there was a lot more variety in those 9, 10, 11 days. Um, the most balanced, gosh, I didn't spend a lot of time at 12, and when I was at 12, you could still zap CCs, so it felt like the hit rate was a little high there too. Um, I don't know. It really depends on what you think balanced means. Like, is it a 20% hit rate?
Yeah,
10%? What is
yeah.
what even is balanced? Because by the end
What
of
is
the
balanced? Yeah,
pros in 14, by the end, I mean, their hit rates were 80% and up. Now, they're the pros. That's insane though, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
they're
Some people might say that 15 is balanced because the hit rates are so low.
right. Right. So it's hard to say. You just know what it feels like, right? It feels like if there was a balance, it's skewed to defense on 15. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. Um, so yeah, I'm sorry to get nitpicky with the word balanced, but just understanding where they were coming from, there's a lot of different perspectives on that. So 9 to me was the most fun because there were varieties of attacks you could use. Like even you get frustrated, like, oh, I've been trying to do Lalo, trying to do Lalo. I'm just gonna spam witches, and then your first couple times getting in there, and you're like, oh, this actually works really well if you do it right.
Hmm.
It sounds like you're belittling spamming witches, but that's what it feels like to someone coming from the Lalo world, where there's timing is everything, and but there's still skill. You still have to know which side to come from. You have to know when to drop the jumps because jumps expire pretty quickly at Town Hall 9, right? And et cetera, et cetera. So, um, Yeah, the 9 was so much fun to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think from a fondness standpoint, Town Hall 9 was the most balanced. I don't think it's balanced now as much simply because, you can pretty much do any kind of attack and have a pretty good shot at tripling. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think the balance is skewed nowadays. I think probably in terms of hit rates and what have you, 15 is probably the most balanced at the moment. We won't really know until it's all the stuff for it has dropped, like all the defense upgrades and troop upgrades that they plan on giving us for 15 are
Mhm.
dropped. But yeah, as much as I cry into my pillow at night over Town Hall 15 hit rates, I think it is the most balanced.
I guess
So we
it
can,
just makes your triples feel better when they happen, right?
yeah. Well, if they ever do happen again, that will feel good. Little fun segment that we're gonna have, hopefully on a regular basis, is questions from our fans. And first question in this segment comes from Magnus.
Here we go.
His question to us is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Your dreams and desires.
Well, I know he's not asking me, so I'll let you answer that.
What do I want to be? Do I have to grow up? I'd like to be a professional Clash of Clans player with an 80% hit rate.
Ooh. Um, it's funny when you're a kid, there's so many different things that seem to be the standard answers. Things like astronaut,
Hmm.
pro athlete, police officer, superhero, right? When I was a kid, I just wanted to be a little bit older all the time, right? Oh, I
Hmm.
think it'd be cool to be 10. Oh, it'd be cool to be in high school. Things like that. But when I guess I was never thinking of what do you want to be when you grow up? And that actually played out really truthfully because when I finished college, I was like, well, now what do I want to do? I wasn't really prepared for the real world.
Right?
And so it took me a little while to become productive. Um, but really, I, you know, I think I wanted to be. I was always fascinated by space, but I also, by the time I was a young adult, like I loved flying until he had a couple of really bad experiences on planes with turbulence.
Hmm.
And now, like, I'm still not fully over that. It's been 25 plus years since those things have happened. I'm still, even the slightest little bumps. But now when I think about it, and hopefully Agent Paladin's listening to this, but during the recording of this, I've been upgrading Flight Simulator. And
Oh, gee.
and one of my son's hockey coaches, we were talking last weekend. He was like, "You should go for your private license," because I told him like I was really fascinated with flight and all that. So one thing on my bucket list that I actually don't think I'm going to pursue, but I think it'd be really cool too, because just I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's practical, is
Hmm.
pursuing like a private pilot's license. Um, and so yeah, that coach actually used to be a commercial pilot, and so he was just like, "Oh, you like to do flight simulation? Just go get your private license." And he made it sound so simple, and perhaps accessible slash cheap, but I guess now that I'm an adult, I'm much more so than adult, but
Hmm.
I'm a middle-aged adult. But you always want to be striving for something, right? And I think
Definitely.
that would be a really cool thing to do, but I just think I'd be too chicken to do it.
Yeah, I know. When I was younger, I always wanted to be a marine biologist and work with whales and other creatures. And then I found out that there were scary sharks in the ocean, and if I wanted to do in that work in that field, I'd have to potentially get in the water with them. So kind of put a damper on that career option.
Well, you could be like George Costanza and just pretend you're it for a day, right? Didn't he? Wasn't he a marine biologist when he pulled the golf ball out of the whale's blowhole? Uh-oh. I think I made a reference that was uncaught.
Yeah, yeah, I don't catch those things.
All right, maybe some listeners will. All
I'm
right.
sure Peter will.
Yeah, well, thanks, Magnus. I think that's a really good question. I know the insinuation is we're not grown up yet, but it does
Yeah.
make you think like, just because you don't end up who does end up where they dream of as a kid, right? Very few.
Yeah,
Um, that
exactly.
still doesn't mean you're done growing up, and you can still desire to do something even at this age.
Agreed. And speaking of childhood, I'm going to talk about the top 5 Star Wars characters, in your opinion, in honor of Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
Yeah.
Uh,
So my list is definitely going to reveal my age and opinions of the series.
Okay,
So
dive right in.
number
Number 5.
5 is Lando, right? Badass hero.
Right.
Lando.
My number 5 is Emperor Palpatine, because every story needs a good bad guy.
Yeah, leave it to you to kick it off with the dark side. Way to go,
Number
Cat.
4.
Thanks, Cat. um, number 4, Chewie. Come on now, you got to have Chewie. I mean, really, he was Han Solo's friggin' sidekick, right? And he spoke some form of galactic gibberish. But he was quite the trusty sidekick.
He was. Speaking of sidekicks, my number 4 is Darth Vader,
Oh boy.
because he was Palpatine's sidekick.
Here comes all of the dark side, right? Now we're learning, getting a lot of insight into you here.
Into my soul. What's your number 3?
Number 3 is Luke Skywalker. Think about him being a little higher up on the list because he's the protagonist in the first movie that was released.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, without Luke Skywalker, there is no Star Wars universe at all.
True. True. My number 3 is Han Solo,
Good choice.
because I think he brought a nice light comedic touch to the series, and
Yeah, I've been compared to Han Solo, both in
many
game and
times.
in real life.
Yep.
Big
I
time.
just the other day, Peter was saying to me, "Man, like Vader reminds me of Han Solo."
Right, right, and remember that time I blew up the Death Star? That was great.
That
No,
was no Death Star.
no. Which one, right?
What's your number 2?
Um, Number 2 is Princess Leia, and all I have to say is, Return of the Jedi, hubba hubba. But also, having a heroic female lead at that time was pretty
Hmm.
new. So,
Yes,
um, badass.
agree. My number 2 is Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Yes, yes,
because
very good.
just a character that I really liked, and I think in the movie he wasn't really utilized as much as they could have, and I really liked that they did that standalone series with him.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he was great in Train Spotting. Oh God, that one's not going to land, is it? All right,
Nope,
we need the
don't think
cricket
I've seen
sound
that.
effect. All right, and finally, my number 1 is one you've already named. It's Han Solo, who I actually have not been compared to in any walk of life. Um, but you're right, like the true anti-hero in a way.
Hmm.
Um, he was the reluctant hero, if you will. But I mean that his arc in the first 3 movies that were released, episodes 4 through 6, is fantastic.
Yeah,
And just like, the space cowboy.
yeah, and he just he brought a really fun element to the whole movies.
Hmm.
My number 1 is R2D2.
Oh, beep beep.
Really, if you think, he was like one of the true heroes of all the movies, because here's this little robot, bringing vital information to the Alliance, and just kind of doing his thing and helping them in some fairly critical situations. They wouldn't have made it very far without him. So
Very good. Very good. And I should deserve a medal. I only confused Star Trek and Star Wars once during this pod on purpose, of course. Just in case anyone's wondering. And I refrained from saying Spock in my list of 5.
good for you. Let's jump into some shout outs. What do you
Shouting
got?
out Magnus, as always, because um, in Discord, what goes on in the channels that not everyone sees um, is pure gold from the guy. He's got a heart bigger than the universe.
Mhm.
And he will hear the joke I made at his expense earlier in this podcast and just roll with it like it's nothing. That's just speaking of the relationships people have grown to have. We tease the heck out of each other, but like I think he likes me. Hopefully he likes me as much as I enjoy his company. And I think that's all because I don't want to water it down. Magnus, I love
Okay,
you. Thank you.
excellent. My shout out, I'm just going to shout out some May birthdays that just happened. Fox, our CFF guru, keeps everything on an even keel. Her birthday was on May 4th. And Whip and Raz, both of those guys had birthdays on May 5th. So great people and good friends. So happy birthday to y'all. And anybody else coming up in May,
Yeah, like my
happy
brother.
birthday.
Come on.
Happy birthday to Fado's brother.
Turning the big
But thank you.
4-8 he is.
Old timer.
Well, he's my younger brother.
Oh
So,
dear. Sorry. Okay, thank you everybody for listening. The CFF is a family of clans in games such as Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and many of the other Supercell games. We love to provide content via podcasts and other media. You can visit the Clash Files Discord to apply to any of our clans or to support our pods and events. As always, please send us your comments, ideas, and questions on Twitter at RedthornCoc or join the Clash Files Discord at discord.gg/clashfiles.